the Senate Republican leader, and the man best positioned to negotiate a solution to a political crisis that threatens to upend the American economy. McConnell, of course, is a conservative, as they come, and the bitter foe of President Obama, famously declaring that his top goal was to make Obama a one-term president. Well, that didn't work out, did it? The Kentuckian gives over-the-top daily speeches on the Senate floor, denouncing the president and Democrats in the harshest terms, while at the same time McConnell has brokered compromises in the past when the country faced economic calamity. He struck a deal with Vice President Joe Biden in the early hours of 2013 to save the nation from going over the so-called fiscal cliff. Well, here we are about 18 months later. The same duo negotiated a compromise to avoid a default on the national debt. This time around, though, McConnell is unable to cut a deal, and that's because of Bevin, who has launched a Tea Party-backed campaign, a challenge to McConnell in the Kentucky Republican primary. Bevin has the backing of conservative groups such as the Madison Project, which propelled Ted Cruz to victory in the Texas Republican Senate primary. As you know, Ted Cruz, I'm no fan of him. And the Madison Project doesn't take kindly to deal-making. Mitch McConnell embellizes the rudderless leadership, vicious core, and duplicitous tendencies of the powers that be within the party. The group wrote in endorsing Bevin, but he isn't just part of the problem. He is the problem in Washington, D.C. In fact, as we write this endorsement, he is pressuring senators not to join the effort to defund Obamacare. Those were his words, not mine. Indeed, it appeared at first that Mitch McConnell was prepared to play the deal-maker again. He opposed Cruz's scheme to fight the Affordable Care Act by blocking legislation to fund the government. Hours before the shutdown began at midnight last Monday, McConnell floated a plan to keep the government running for another week. Bevin howled, "Where was Mitch McConnell while Ted Cruz was standing and fighting?" Well, he was sleeping, literally. Bevin wrote on the conservative website, redstate.com. And when he wasn't sleeping, he was whipping his fellow Republicans to vote against Senator Cruz's efforts. Bevin's conservative patrons joined the assault. The Madison Project complained about McConnell's habit of parachuting in. The Senate conservatives fund charged that McConnell had surrendered to Barack Obama, Harry Reid, and the Democrats. So I don't think Bevin is the entire problem here, but I think he is a good part of that problem, in that you have groups like the Tea Party that are basically an extra cog in the wheel. Now, I'm not opposed to splinter political groups in name, but when they hinder due process, it does make matters worse. But that's part of the flow of politics in this country. But McConnell's more interested in playing politics than he is in helping out the people of this country, which is his first priority, in my opinion. But he seems to have lost sight of that. Okay, rolling on this very, very, very late edition of First Cup. And let's see if there's anything else in here that I wanted to bring up. Just a moment, my friends. I apologize for the... he seems to think that I would have enough time to prepare everything, but it has been a crazy day in terms of dealing with computers and trying to do this show. And I think that takes care of all of that I wanted to get out of the paper today. It seemed like there was one other story, but must not have been a very big one. So we're going to turn that off, let the unit recharge, put that over there, and try to turn that off again. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Okay, there we go. Now, switching on to some other notes that I have in regards to today. One more thing I want to bring up, and then I'm going to take a break. In a potential breakthrough that could end the government shutdown, there are a few House Democrats that are pushing for a procedural move that could break the stalemate. It's called a discharge petition. Okay, a discharge petition. Sounds dirty, but in some ways I guess it is. But basically it would cut House Speaker John Boehner, a Tea Party extremist, out of the budget process and force a vote on a clean spending bill. Okay? It only needs 18 Republicans for it to work. Just get 18 Republicans to agree to this. And it seems impossible, doesn't it? Well, 21 Republicans have gone on the record saying they're willing to support a clean budget, but now is their chance to back up their words with action and end the shutdown for good. Tea Party extremists shut down the government to force their right-wing agenda on the American people. John Boehner seems unwilling to bring a clean funding bill up for a vote, as he said so on numerous talk shows yesterday. But they have 218 representatives sign the discharge petition. 218 of them. 218 congressmen sign this discharge petition. It will undermine John Boehner's strength in the House, okay? Now, with 200 Democrats already on board, only need 18 moderate Republicans to sign on and stand up against the extremism of their Tea Party colleagues. And right now, the Republicans essentially shut the government down, trying to derail the Affordable Care Act. The Tea Party is the roadblock that no one can seem to get around. The Democrats are on the other side saying, you leave the Affordable Care Act alone. It's already law. Don't mess with it. And my biggest problem with this, actually a couple of them. One, people calling President Obama a dictator or trying to get his way. Well, he's the President of the United States. Okay? Now, I'm not saying the President has absolute authority. He is the leader of his party, and he is supposed to direct the Democrats. But he's also supposed to work with Republicans. But he did play fairly, at least on the surface, from what I could tell, with the Affordable Care Act. There probably were some dirty deals underneath that, but we don't know the extent of that yet. But what I have seen is that this law was done according to the rules of the Constitution. Now, if you don't like it, well, you should have spoken up louder, and you should have got more of your friends to speak on your behalf to your congressman, to your senator, and said, we don't want this. But trying to circumvent it 3 years later when it's already been signed into law is too damned late. And the only way it's going to happen now is if you tell your congressmen and your senators now to repeal it. Now, if they are able to get a repeal measure into Congress and into the Senate, and this thing is overturned and the president signs it, the Affordable Care Act would be history. But we both know that the president isn't going to do that. There's no way in hell that's ever going to happen now. So I'm tired of hearing about he is railroading this through. Well, he did it according to the book. And you should have spoken louder. You should have spoken louder. Okay? It kind of reminds me of what happened last year with the Casey Anthony case. Remember her? The woman who was accused of murdering her daughter? I believe in my heart of hearts that she did it, without a doubt. But the prosecution did not do its job in proving beyond a reasonable doubt before that jury that she did it. And she got off. And then people were saying, well, justice wasn't served. Well, justice doesn't mean that things go the way you want them to. To me, justice is the process by which someone is tried and either convicted or exonerated, or whatever the case might be, or acquitted. But it doesn't mean a conviction. Same here with the Affordable Care Act. This thing went through extensive revisions, went through extensive debates, and the members of Congress voted in favor of it. Granted, it was a different Congress than what we have now, but they still voted in favor of it. So the Republicans, what they're doing is screwing the American people. They're jeopardizing our credit worldwide because we're 9 days away now, essentially, from defaulting on many of our bills. All because a bunch of rich people are not able to make a profit off of this. So they're trying to get it out of there. So they're throwing this demonizing publicity campaign to get rid of this. And it's not working. Now, I realize that the government was woefully unprepared for the amount of people that were going to be checking this thing out last Tuesday when the law went into full effect. Now, some would say that more people are interested in the Affordable Care Act than we originally thought. Well, to a certain extent that may be true. But I don't know about you, but through my employer, I got a letter in the mail a couple of weeks ago saying that if I wanted to leave my company's health plan and go to a private exchange, I'd have to do so out of my own pocket. Now, I would not be eligible for government subsidies to pay for that plan because I make too much money, but still, I would have that option. So I think you had a lot of people who were just logging on because their company's health insurance plan or HR staff gave them that option. By law, that has to be there. And the government is woefully unprepared for that kind of traffic. Plus, you don't have as many government workers out there now working on this system because of the government shutdown. So enough with this King Obama crap, and he's a dictator and all this stuff. I didn't do it to President Bush when he was in office. So I'd ask you to do the same of this president. To lay off that kind of talk. At least I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to put up with it. Alright? If you don't like it, vote in 2016 for who you want to be in office. But until then, Barack Obama is the President of the United States, and he will be for the next 3.5 years. Or next 3 years and 3 months. So get used to it. Okay? You survived the last 4 years, you can survive another 3. Alright? Okay. Well, that's pretty much it on the Discharge Petition Act, and there are some other things I'd like to talk about, but I think I'll let some of that slide for another edition of First Cup, probably tomorrow's program, assuming I have one. Well, I'm going to take a break and give my choppers a little bit of a break as well, give your ears a break from my voice, and coming up in a few minutes, of course I'm going to do things a little bit out of sequence. I'll tell you what, right now, I'll go ahead and do it. Have what's on TV. It's almost 10 o'clock Eastern, and the latest listing I have is for 9 o'clock Eastern, so we'll skip that segment. So we'll forget what's on TV. I have things that you need to know, some interesting tidbits on what's trending for today. I admit Monday's largely over for the majority of America, but I'll still go ahead and read that because there are some amusing things there I wanted to bring up. Things you can talk about tomorrow when you're at your respective office coolers. Then we'll have news headlines from the Associated Press, as well as news, oddly enough, from Fox Radio a little bit later on, and NPR News. Okay. Couldn't find the CBS World News Roundup for the evening. They only offer it during the daytime. And, of course, most of that news is 12 hours old, so I won't be running that. But instead, what I will have for you is Fox Radio News as well as NPR News from a couple of hours ago, and it should still be fresh, okay? Fresh out of the oven, as it were. Now, something else I wanted to bring up, this is on a personal level, in regards to what happened earlier today. The first time that I attempted this morning's show, I had a knock on the door, and I didn't have any way of killing the dead air without having dead air. So I have created a little card to help me in such an emergency. Hopefully my emergency won't be more than 2 minutes and 11 seconds. So if you ever hear this play on one of my podcasts, it means that I'm in the middle of a live recording or live broadcast, and then I have stepped away from the computer, and I'll be back as soon as I can, okay? But if you ever hear this, don't worry, I will return, okay? Hi friends, I had to step away for just a little bit. There's somebody at the front door, and I'll be right back. But in the meantime, here's Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass to keep you company, okay, while we kill time. I'll be right back. Yeah, if you ever hear that, don't worry, okay? As I said, I'll be right back. So, I created that earlier today. I was thinking of the Spanish Fly. I was trying to figure something kind of cheesy to keep the mood going. And that's what I came up with. Alright? Still to come, though, I have for you the Writer's Almanac, as well as Across Our Wide Missouri with Missouri Net's Bob Pretty. And talk top stories. I don't see the composer state